Have you ever noticed that the more you strive to be seen, the more you fade from memory? There exists a silent power that renders your presence unforgettable without uttering a single word. An allure that doesn't assert itself. It simply emerges. Have you felt that silent anguish, an almost invisible unease, that you must do more, say more, show more, just to be noticed? As if your mere presence were insufficient. As if there were always a hidden need to prove your worth. As though the world were constantly watching, judging, measuring you by what you display, rather than by who you truly are. This pain, this sense of inadequacy, is more common than it seems. It is silent, concealed beneath forced smiles, hurried words, postures that perform, rather than express. Many live this way, believing that to be admired, they must be performative. To be desired, they must exhibit themselves. To be respected, they must show off. And so, they lose sight of the essence, the invisible power of true attraction. But what if real strength is not found in what you do, but in how you simply are? What if what inspires the deepest attraction is not your effort to stand out, but the serenity with which you inhabit your space? Not through the volume of your words, but through the quiet consistency of your choices. Not through the display of virtues, but through an integrity that is felt, even when unspoken. There is a mistake that almost everyone makes, believing that attraction is built through spectacle, through artifice, through visible demonstrations. But no, what truly attracts, what truly leaves a mark, is silent mastery. It is the emotional stability that is perceived before you even open your mouth. It is the tranquility that precedes any gesture and transforms your presence into something unforgettable, even when discreet. Marcus Aurelius is an eternal symbol of this silent presence, an emperor who did not lead through fear, but through the dignity he embodied. Amidst the chaos of military campaigns, he remained tranquil. Amidst disorder, he was order. His strength was not force, but serenity. He did not need to shout, because his life, his posture, was the message. Epictetus offers us the key to understand this attraction, to forever distinguish what depends on us and what does not. Our character, our choices depend on us. The approval of others does not. And thus, he teaches, true attraction is not a deliberate conquest, but the inevitable reflection of one who lives according to their rational nature. And in this video, you will discover how to master this invisible force and transform your presence forever. The face speaks, even when the lips remain closed. Before any word is uttered, your expression has already sent a silent message to the world. There is an invisible communication that precedes and transcends speech, a subtle language that reveals with precision who you truly are. Science confirms micro-expressions, those almost imperceptible movements of the facial muscles, betray internal coherence or its absence. The countenance is a mirror, not a mask. And you, what does your face reveal? The peace of one who governs themselves, or the chaos of one at war with their own soul? Many try to force a serene expression, believing that merely appearing calm will make them seem secure, whole, stable. But there is an abyss between appearing and being. The countenance that truly attracts is not trained to disguise emotion, but in its stillness expresses authentic peace, the peace of one reconciled with their own nature. Seneca reminds us, serenity is not the absence of emotion, but the conscious choice not to be enslaved by it. The tranquil face is not the one that feels nothing, but the one that has learned not to be ruled by what it feels. It does not hide, it reveals. It does not pretend, it communicates. It does not perform, it expresses. And here is the truth. The great trap is to try to appear calm when inside chaos reigns, to try to mask the face instead of purifying the heart. Those who live like this grow weary. They lose themselves. They exhaust themselves, fighting against their inner truth. But those who cultivate true stability realize they no longer need to pretend. The countenance simply expresses what is already at peace. The secret is not to control every feature, every gesture, every glance, but attend quietly to the inner world. Because when the soul is disciplined, the face does not need to perform. It simply is. And in that serene countenance, there is a force that attracts effortlessly, without spectacle, without words, by simply being. Have you noticed how often you speak too much just to be noticed? As if the value of your presence depended on the volume of your words. As if in silence you simply cease to exist. Silence is often mistaken for absence, for weakness, for emptiness. But to those who understand the art of being truly present, silence is strength. It is space. It is invitation. Epictetus teaches, if silence does not improve you, it also does not harm you. Silence, when born of awareness, does not diminish, it magnifies. It does not erase, it illuminates. It does not weaken, it fortifies. Yet many fear silence. They fill it with unnecessary words, with rushed justifications, with anxieties disguised as discourse. Speaking too much becomes a defense mechanism, a desperate attempt to be seen, to prove worth, to capture attention. But excessive speech is not the language of presence. It is the language of anxiety. And you, when you fall silent, do you feel more present or more invisible? There is an austere beauty, rare, in those who know how to remain silent. Well-held silence creates space for the other. It opens a clearing in the dense forest of words, where true presence can breathe. Silence is not emptiness. It is fullness, not absence, but potency. The Stoic practice is this: to accept silence as a natural part presence, not to fear the space without words, but to inhabit it with serenity, with awareness, with openness. And thus, silence becomes fertile and, paradoxically, begins to communicate more than any discourse. Those who master silence become magnetic, not through insistence, but through the absence that welcomes and transforms. So breathe and ask yourself, do you speak to fill the silence or to express what is essential? Observe yourself. Do you act or merely react? The body speaks before the mind forms thoughts, before you're even aware. Every movement, every gesture, every tilt already communicates. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. Dignity manifests in small movements, in those who govern themselves, in those who move with intention, and never with impulsivity. But many confuse energy with agitation, presence with dispersion, vitality with excess. They fidget, they gesticulate, they speak with their hands, with their shoulders, with their entire body, believing that in this way they will seem more alive, more interesting, more present. But excessive gestures do not reveal confidence. They reveal its absence. And you? Do your gestures convey mastery or lack of control? Neuroscience confirms minimal, controlled gestures are interpreted as clear signs of competence, of confidence, of mastery. The restrained body, but not rigid, sends a silent message of one who knows where they are, of one who knows who they are, of one who does not need to justify their presence with theatrical movements. The Stoic habit is this: to contain gestures, not as repression, but as the natural expression of one who cultivates intention, of one who acts and does not merely react, of one who moves not to impress, but to be faithful, their own center. The body that communicates security also communicates attraction, not because it tries, but precisely because it does not need to try. And in its restraint, there is a discrete force, a presence that imposes itself without effort, without spectacle, by simply being. The gaze is one of the most powerful instruments of presence. It reveals, it welcomes, or it repels. And you? Does your gaze draw others in or intimidate them? Seneca taught, we must look at the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. The Stoic gaze does not seek to dominate, does not seek to seduce, does not seek to manipulate. It contemplates, it observes, it respects. Yet there are those who wield their gaze as a weapon, as an instrument of power, as a forced seduction. They fix their eyes, they invade, they attempt to subjugate through intensity, confusing steadiness with aggression, presence with intrusion. But the gaze that truly attracts is the one that rests. It is the one that sees. It is the one that does not force. The Stoic habit is to look with curiosity, with presence, with attentiveness, without judgment, without expectation. The contemplative gaze conveys welcome. It conveys strength. It conveys the silent confidence of one who needs to prove nothing, of one who simply is, of one who simply observes, and by that very fact, becomes unforgettable. So, when you look, are you truly seeing, or merely longing to be seen? When was the last time you truly paused and breathed deeply? Breath is the first act of self-mastery. Even before thought, even before action, it is there silently shaping who you are. Epictetus taught, he who governs his breath governs his soul. And yet, how many of us neglect it? We breathe shallow, anxious, automatic, unaware that the way we breathe both reveals and shapes the way we live. When breathing becomes shallow, the body shifts into alert, the mind agitates, anxiety settles in, and loss of control takes hold. Breath then is a symptom, but can also be a remedy. To breathe slowly and deeply is to choose not to be swept by the current. It is to anchor oneself, to affirm, I am here, I am present, I am in command. The Stoic practice is to cultivate deep breathing in any situation, to breathe deeply when all around are losing control, when fear approaches, when anger threatens, when doubt haunts. Deep breathing, silent, steady, reveals mastery, reveals strength, reveals attraction, because those who breathe well, live well, and those who live well attract, not through effort, but through the serenity they transmit. So inhale deeply now and feel the silent presence that is born from one who masters themselves. Do you flee or remain? Seneca reminds us, it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. Discomfort is inevitable, but fear of it is optional. Those who fear discomfort flee. They squirm, they hide, or they fidget, try to mask the pain with hollow performances. But those who accept discomfort, who welcome it, who remain firm in its presence, become invulnerable. To confuse discomfort with threat is a common mistake. Not every difficulty is a danger. Not every tension a risk. Often, discomfort is merely an invitation, a test, a silent opportunity to demonstrate the invisible strength of one who remains while others falter. And you, in the face of discomfort, do you flee or do you remain? The Stoic habit is this, to welcome discomfort, not with resignation, but with dignity, to remain when fleeing would be easier, to stay silent when screaming will be more comfortable, to accept when resisting will be more tempting, and in that acceptance, to reveal the silent strength that attracts, not through ostentation, but through solidity, because those who do not fear discomfort become unshakable, and the presence of one who is unshakable always attracts. Your relationship with time reveals much more about you than you imagine. For Marcus Aurelius, time was the most precious resource. To waste it was to waste one's very life. Punctuality is not merely a social convention. It is a virtue, a silent respect, both for others and for oneself. To treat schedules with negligence reveals a lack of inner discipline. It shows that one does not govern, that one does not organize, that one does not respect themselves. And you? Do you respect or neglect your own time? Tardiness communicates, even if silently, disorder, inconstancy, lack of commitment. The Stoic habit is to be punctual, to arrive early, to act with precision, to be predictable in integrity, not to impress, but because that is how one lives with honor. Punctuality does not draw attention, but it inspires confidence, respect, admiration. It is an invisible expression of one who disciplines their time, and by so doing disciplines their life. And remember, he who governs his time governs his destiny. In a world that shouts for excess, true greatness lies in simplicity. But how many confuse simplicity with negligence, with poverty, with a lack of care? It is not. Simplicity is not absence, but presence. The presence of inner order, of clarity, of essentiality. Seneca saw in simplicity the purest reflection of an ordered soul, not an absence, but a choice. To confuse simplicity with disregard for aesthetics is a mistake, just as believing that only excess communicates value is also an illusion. Excess often masks emptiness. Ornament frequently hides the lack of substance. And you? Does your aesthetic reveal essence or disguise insecurity? The Stoic habit is this: to care for appearance with discretion, with appropriateness, with sobriety. It is not to despise care, but to reject ostentation, to allow presence to impose itself, not through adornment, but through coherence. Those who are simple are clear, and those who are clear are strong, and those who are strong attract, not because they need more, but because they are more. In simplicity, there is power. In the absence of excess, there is greatness. And in coherence, there is attraction. When you listen, truly, do you transmit security or anxiety? Epictetus advised, listen more, speak less. A rare wisdom, but one that creates immediately an irresistible attraction. To listen, truly to listen, is an act of absolute presence, of emotional strength, of silent generosity. Many believe that being heard is more important than knowing how to hear. They speak incessantly, interrupt, compete for space, fearing that if they don't speak, they will be forgotten, they will be erased. But it is precisely the opposite. Those who know how to listen with full attention, welcome, create a safe space, offer the other the most precious gift, to be perceived without being judged. And you? When you listen, do you truly welcome, or merely wait for your turn to speak? The Stoic habit is to cultivate this listening, not as a strategy, but as a way of being, to listen with the whole body, with an open mind, with a heart present, and thus to generate a natural attraction, spontaneous, profound, because those who listen reveal maturity, reveal stability, reveal security, and security attracts silently, inevitably. Do you judge or welcome? Marcus Aurelius affirmed, each one lives according to what they judge to be good. And, for that reason, those who judge quickly erect invisible walls that push away, that wound, that exclude. To judge is easy. To welcome is rarer, more valuable, more transformative. Those who suspend judgment, who accept, who listen, who welcome, become safe spaces where the other can simply be. And in that space, a silent attraction arises because the absence of judgment is an invitation, is a permission, is an embrace. And you, when you encounter another, do you offer judgment or its space? The Stoic habit is not to judge, not because everything is acceptable, but because not everything needs to be immediately classified, condemned, analyzed. It is to allow the other to exist before being interpreted, and in that space, to create a presence that invites, that does not threaten, that attracts, through security, through freedom, through humanity. And remember, those who are a safe space become unforgettable. Are you willing to grow silently until you become impossible to ignore? Seneca said, true greatness is not measured by how much one displays, but by how much one evolves without fanfare. To evolve, not to impress, but to live with more integrity, with more coherence, with more presence. To seek to appear wise or evolved is an error, because it still reveals the need for approval, for applause, for recognition. But those who silently invest in their own growth, who dedicate themselves without needing to announce it, who transform without needing to exhibit it, become inevitable, like the oak that grows slowly, discreetly, silently, but that one day, without effort, without haste, becomes a presence impossible to ignore. And you, are you cultivating that invisible commitment to your self-evolution? The Stoic habit is this: to commit to self-evolution as an invisible, silent, continuous work, and one day realize that you have become not just someone stronger, more whole, more free, but also someone deeply attractive, because those who evolve silently do not need to show off. Their presence speaks for them. True power is not found in the effort to be seen, but in the freedom of not needing to be. True attraction is not a set of techniques, but the inevitable expression of a soul that has found rest in coherence with itself. Marcus Aurelius remains the final image of this journey, the man who did not need to shout to be obeyed, who did not need to impose to be respected, who did not need to exhibit to be remembered. His presence was enough because his life was his message. Epictetus reinforces, the free man is the one who lives according to reason, and it is precisely this freedom, invisible, silent, that generates the most authentic and lasting attraction. You do not need to try to be attractive. You need to become whole, serene, autonomous. Attraction is merely the invisible echo of that conquest, like the oak that does not grow to be seen, but because it is rooted in what sustains it. So too, the truly attractive human grows silently until they become impossible to ignore. The challenge I leave you is this: cultivate your silent presence, strengthen your soul, and allow that one day your mere existence will be impossible to ignore. If this message touched you, comment below. My presence will be my message. And remember, remain silent, evolve, and simply be. If you felt that this video strengthened you, like, and subscribe to the Stoic Pathless. In this way, you help us to spread even further this philosophy of silent and profound transformation.